Hello everybody and welcome to another video of circuit tutorials. I'm Bjornafar and today I'll show you 4 uses for this touchpad. So, just follow along and I'll show you some examples. Here are the circuits we're going to need for our first example. First, pull out your maker pen and you go on tools and use the connect tool. Wire touched move to light set range, the point light to the target, and the range into the multiply, and the 1 value into the X, and then the value here on multiply would be the strength of the light. So I'm going to set mine to 100 just to showcase this. Now the vector 3 is going to go into current position. And that's all we need for this. So now if you move this touchpad back, just on screen mode so it's easier for you guys to see, when I move from the left side to the right, it will become more and more light. The light range will go up. Now, here it is in darkness. You could replace this light set range chip with a light set intensity and the light would get brighter and brighter. Now, here's what happens. When we move on the touchpad, this is going to execute. And the touchpad, if I scale it up, you guys will be able to see that it says 0.0 and 1.1 at the top right corner and bottom left corner. This is a 2D component, so it's flat, so it only has X and Y as outputs on the touchpad. Therefore, this axis, the left to right, will be the X and the Y will be the up and down axis. So we can use this by, when we move our hand, it's going to give the current position of the touchpad where we are inputting. So the complete left side would output X as 0 and the right side as 1. So we're then multiplying this number, so 0.5 would become 50 instead of 0.5, and then when we're moving our hand, we're basically setting the range for the light. So that's what happens when you move it from left to right. Now let me show you another example. Here are the circuits we're going to need. Now let's get wiring. Go on the connect tool and wire current position into the vector 3 split and the X into hue on the HSV to color. Now the output of that color is going to go into the light set color, and the point light is going to go into the target on the light set color, and the input on the light set color is going to go into touched move. So now when I move this touchpad back, we can see that this light will change colors depending on how where we're moving on the touchpad. And you can also wire this Y value into the saturation. And if we make it a little higher, you guys can see that when I'm all the way up on the left side, the further down I go, the lighter this color is going to be. So it's going to go from a bright red at the top and then more lighter red until it goes to white. So we can do the same with green, as you can see. Same with purple. It'll become more and more like lighter. So, okay, so here's what happens within the circuit. When we move our hand on the touchpad, it's going to output out of the touched move. And it's going to get the position on the touchpad, which is a 2D object. And when we're moving on the left axis, we are changing the hue on the HSVs to color. Here on screen, I'm going to show how this basically looks, so you can get an idea of how the colors kind of work together. And then the saturation would be from the up and down on the touchpad, which would be how bright and basically how saturated the color is. So yeah, let me go to the next example. Alright, here are the circuits. So the system we have set up is a little bit different this time. But now let's get to wiring. Wire the vector component to the get position, same with the other one. And then the top one you go into start, and the other one into end. and then the X value on the vector 3 split will go in the progress, and then the vector 3 here will go into the current position on the touchpad. Now the Rec Room's object set authority is going to go into the beacon. This chip is a beta chip, so remember to turn that on into the game's room settings, or else you will not be able to find this chip. And then wire the beacon into the target, and then the position into the lerp, and then the output of the object set authority into the set position, and then the input of that into the output of the touched moved. Now this is how I have it set up. My one vector here, the one all the way to the left, is this vector right here, and the one on the right is this vector right here. But here, now I'll show you how, or well, what it does. So when we move here from the left side to the right, the beacon will move. So depending on the progress, you know, the beacon will move from one side to the other. I can also just click on the touchpad and it will move. But yeah, now let me explain how this works. Okay, so here we have the vector components, and we're getting both the position of these, and we're wiring it into the start and end on lerp. How lerp works is that, let's say the start, which is point A, which is over here, and point B, which is the end, right? This progress, when let's say it's on 0.5, basically we've touched the touchpad in the middle, so this will output 0.5. This result will basically be the vector in between these two. So if I moved this vector, for example, more up, you'll be able to see that it goes diagonally now. So yeah, if I move this into 0.5, you would be able to see that the output is 0.5, and then it would output the vector that is in between these two. Then the Rec Room object set authority, we're setting the beacon, you know, the object we're moving, the authority to yourself. There's tutorials on YouTube how authority works, but it's to make sure that the system doesn't break and it's all running smooth. And then the set position is basically where we're setting the position of the beacon to, which is the lerp. So that's how it works. It's very simple also, but the next one will be a little harder. So here will be the last and final example. Here are the chips we're going to need. Pull out your maker pen, and now let's wire it all up. Current position goes into the vector 3 scale, and the scalar goes into the output of the distance, and now we're getting the distance between the both positions. And you're just going to wire those up like before with the vectors. Now the beacon goes into the target of the object set authority, and then the vector 3 scale goes into the vector 3 split. And right now we're just going to wire these all up, you know, like this. So it will be the exact same output, but I'll show in a little bit what we can change here to get a different outcome. But then you wire the top to the add, and then the other one into the bottom vector component. Now the sum you're going to put into the position of the set position, and the target of the set position into the beacon, and then the output of the Rec Room object set authority into the set position, and then the output of touched moved into that. Now if I move this, you will be able to see that it just mirrors the touchpad, right? Now here I'll show a cool example of what we can do. So what we can do to convert this Y value to move into the move the entire thing, kind of like moving a map, like moving a marker on a map. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your arrows in the corner of your room. So this would only work if you had a square, square map, or else you would have to do some more math to change it in, like the sizes and stuff. But I'm just going to move mine up like this to be able to show you guys how it works. Now, if I use the touchpad now, you guys can see, okay, well, it's gonna be pretty hard. Oh wait, sorry, my bad, guys. You have to wire this Y value into the Z, right? So now this, you know, the top value will now become the Z value. So if I now use the touchpad, you'll be able to see okay, it's hard to see on screen mode. I wish I could showcase this a little better, but when I'm moving it here down in the corner, it's in the bottom left corner right now. So when I move it more and more up, it will, you know, move more and more up. Now here I'm touching the middle of the touchpad, which would be in the middle of the room, which it is right now. Or I could keep moving it up and it would be in the other corner of the map. So this way you can basically make a marker on the map, like with the touchpad. So yeah, now I'll go and showcase and explain how it works. Okay, here's how it all works. So first we're getting the vector components positions, and we're getting the distance here. This distance will be our scalar, which basically makes it able to go the distance we're having. Basically, this is what makes it so it has its boundaries, you know, like so it mimics the touchpad. So the vector we're scaling is our touchpad's current position, and this will scale our vector with, for example, right now, since the distance is 14, it will scale all of these values with 14, right? So this input vector is scaled by 14, and that's what the output will be. Now, since the y value is when we move up and down, if we convert that value into the z value, it'll basically become a 2D plane onto the floor, where this y value is where you can change the height of your beacon. So high, or down it is. Now we're just adding this onto the vector component here, which is in the corner. So this is basically like our start position, right? So it will be the start position added with, you know, what we're moving our hand on the touchpad with. And then it will set the authority to you of the beacon, and then it will set the position of the beacon. So yeah. Thank you so much for watching another video of circuit tutorials. I really appreciated that you made it this way through. I'm hoping you could use this information useful and implement it into your own rooms, as using the touchpad is very nice, and I feel like it's been kind of hidden in the shadows and people don't use it that much. So, if you have any ideas or any questions or need help with anything, then please write down in the comments below and I'll gladly answer them as fast as I can. So, see you in the next episode.